Hello and welcome. This is Lisa Jones, and you are listening to the Exploring Death podcast. Hello and welcome to the Exploring Death podcast. I'm Lisa Jones, your host, and today I have with me Gretchen Bickert. Gretchen is a sound and energy therapist who works with people, animals, and groups. She leads group participants on a transformational meditative journey using gongs and other vibrational instruments. She is currently a support staff member and student tutor for the Sound Healing Academy in London and teaches Kundalini, yoga, and meditation. Her interest in the afterlife grew when her own beloved dog, Ernie, died and sent tangible signs from the hereafter. It was then she began to immerse herself in afterlife research and became a certified grief counselor for those who are grieving the loss of a beloved pet. Her passion is using sound and energy, along with other holistic modalities, to assist with finding the way back to one's true self. Welcome, Gretchen.
Welcome. Thank you. So happy to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here. And we recently met at the Afterlife conference in Salt Lake City. And I attended your class that you presented, which was about the end of life care for animals and how you use your vibrational sound healing to help not only the animals through that end of life care, but also their human companions. And it was such an amazing, the talk you gave was just so wonderful. And I didn't even, think how wonderful it would be until I was in it and just like, oh my gosh, I have to share this with my listeners. So I'm thrilled to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you for asking. I'm super glad to be here and to be able to share a super important message and information about our animals and how we're really embracing hospice, palliative care, guiding our animals into their transitions, just like we do with people. The whole dying a good death for our people, this movement, it really spills over into our animals as well. So I'm glad. Thanks for asking me to come here.
Yes. And it's so true. And I think for so many of us, the death of an animal is the first death that many of us experience. Most of us as children, we might have lost a pet as we're growing up, or, teenage years, or even, of course, as we get older. But losing a pet is sometimes the most difficult experience because they are unconditional love. And so losing that being in our life can just be very, very traumatic. So I love that you've actually become a certified practitioner for people that have, lost a loved pet. And I love seeing your animal here with us. What's his name or her name?
This is Apple. And as soon as we got on the call, I have a cat, Harlequin. They decided to start being very rambunctious.
Well, that's what pets love to do, right?
I know. I'm like, you're getting up here with me.
That's right.
Yeah, this is Apple. Apple actually, her human died, and I was fostering her, and she became what they call, which is a horrible thing to say, foster failure. So I failed at fostering because now she's with me. But it was interesting because her and I had a chat, and I said, I lost my mom too, and I know how hard it is. And so we supported each other through the grief and the loss. And yeah, it was just really perfect how it always works out, right?
That's right. That's right. Hold on one second. I hear is your phone dinging or something's dinging?
Probably my computer. Yeah, and I had shut off my messages, so I don't really know why it's continuing. Sorry.
That's okay, but I just keep dinging, so we'll cut this part out. But if there's
let's cut that out. That's really annoying. If you want to just hold on a second, I can see if I can change the settings in it, and then we'll just meh.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just
on. All right, so let's see here. Details. Do not disturb. Oh, and then that's what came up was one of yours. Do not
Was it?
All right, I'm really trying to see. For some reason on my Mac, none. There we go. Message received, sound none. Okay, I think we're good. Sorry
Okay,
about
cool.
that.
Oh, that's okay. But I was just thinking if it like one ding is good, but ding a dunged.
Was it donged?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what's the past tense? Okay, just trying to think where to pick up. So
you're talking about Apple and how she came to be. You before that you were chatting about how losing an animal may be our
yeah. Well,
know?
and how you became a certified practitioner. So how about I'll just say, so I see your dog Apple is with you. So tell me how about that? Something like that?
Yeah, sure.
How you got her. Okay. So I see your dog Apple is with you. So tell me about Apple's story.
Well, Apple, we can back up and talk a little bit about Ernie. So I had my dog Ernie for about 14 years, and when he ended up getting diagnosed with cancer, which was just a horrible situation for me, and my first experience with anticipatory grief and loss, and we'll circle back around to him. But I had lost him, and I lost another dog, and my mom had died, and my dad was in hospice, and I decided that maybe I would foster another dog. I'd been out without a dog for a couple of years, and I thought, well, maybe I'll foster. And so I fostered Apple. When I saw her at the shelter I was volunteering at, she was just really doing horribly there, very anxious, and it was just a traumatic situation. So I brought her home, and she had lost her mother. Her caretaker had died. So she was grieving, and I brought her home, and we had our conversation, and I told her, you know, I lost my mom too, and I know how hard it is. So let's support each other through this. And anyway, long story short, I ended up keeping her. And she's already, like animals do, has taught me so many things, taught me lessons. You know, our animals are like these messengers, these angels on earth sent to guide us and teach us and open us, you know, and expansion. So yeah, it's a little bit about Apple, who's just like wanting all of my attention right now.
That's right. I know animals always love whenever I'm doing energy work or, you know, even talking on the phone, right? They want your attention just like a little child.
Yeah, she's just like a little child. Say hello, Apple.
That's so cute.
And,
So yeah, let's jump into the story about Ernie, because that was really your awakening to the whole kind of hospice experience with animals. And as you mentioned in the intro that I read, that it helped you kind of delve into the whole idea of afterlife and communicating with your beloved animal on the other side, because Ernie sent you so many messages. So let's start.
Like,
where would you like to start?
It was like the craziest thing ever, Lisa. I'm telling you, you know, when I got the diagnosis, and Ernie was my first dog as an adult, right? So when he was sick, you know, and even before I found out, he told me, you know, we were very close, and he just seemed like he hadn't been feeling very well. And I asked him, you know, what's going on? And he's just like, I don't feel well. And I'm like, all right, we're going to go in, we're going to see Dr. King, and we're going to find out what's going on. Find out diagnosis is lymphoma, heartbreaking. So first experience with anticipatory grief, which was, I just didn't even like get how painful it would be. You know that when you find out someone's terminal, it's like, oh my God, this is like horrible. But I really hadn't been or experienced that depth of like panic and pain and freak out. And here's this dog who's still on earth, but yet I'm feeling like he's already died. It's like, what is up with this? And so I learned anticipatory grief. You know, when I was able to find a name for it, I learned, okay, that's what I'm going through. And we went through the whole experience, and he did chemo. We integrated a lot of holistic modalities. I integrated sound at the end. And when he died, he sent some crazy signs, and it also really pushed me to help others. To, you know, his message really to me after he died was, get moving. get back on your path. You know, you're dragging your feet here, you know, in a very loving, compassionate way, because when our guides, our angels, our loved ones, our higher self talks to us, it's never punitive. It's never, you know, judgy. It's just kind of like, come on, let's go. And so I was like, oh my gosh, all right. And that's when I got certified as a pet loss and bereavement counselor to help others. And what I learned through that turned out to really help me deal with my mom's death and kind of know what was coming. And it was interesting because before her death, I was studying to get my certification. And I actually finished everything while she was in the ICU, and was able to tell her, oh my God, you know, I passed and I've got my certificate. And she ended up dying, I don't know, it was about a month after that. So, I mean, the whole time was just very deep and stressful and painful, but also beautiful in certain ways because of the evolution that I was able to go through. I feel very fortunate that things sort of fell in front of me that I could see, because I do feel like everybody has these signs and symbols and all of that. They just they're not always aware, or they don't always see them. It's not like I'm, you know, chosen or special. I think we've talked about that before. Everybody has this stuff happening. And then after he died, of course, that's really when the crazy signs came in. I mean,
well, yeah, let's talk about that. Well, before we get into the signs, I'm just curious, because I know you said that he was telling you that he wasn't feeling well. And I know some people are like, well, how did you know? Like, what do you actually hear words, or is it a knowing? Or, you know, just talk a little bit about just communicating with your pet, like when they're still here on Earth. And then we'll talk about communicating them once they've crossed over.
right. Well, yeah. To me, it's like dogs will communicate with you, animals in pictures or feelings or very quick words. It's never like, so this is what is going on. It's like very like quick, and you have to pay attention, connecting through your heart, you know. And that's, I think, with Ernie, because we were so connected at a heart level, it was like he was a person, you know. It was like talking to a person. But like with other animals that I don't know as well, for me at least, I know there's other animal communicators that are just like, bam. It's more difficult because I'm so used to having that sort of love energy. Does that make sense?
Yes. I think that makes sense. And so, you know, I think a lot of people that have a beloved animal in their life, it's that heart connection. That it's not that you're hearing words. It's not that you're necessarily, you know, getting a a dissertation, or, you know, some sort of like download of a storybook of what they're experiencing. But yeah, I think it's just that kind of unspoken body language connection that people can have.
And like fragments that you're able to translate in some energetic realm. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. Well, and I love the idea. I keep getting this vision, and so I'm just going to share it. When I had my dog and I was trying to, potty train him to go outside, and I was told that if you give a picture in your head of what you want them to do, so here I'm in my head trying to, like a snapshot of him, taking a dump in the yard. But I swear within 10 seconds of me holding that thought, all of a sudden there he is doing it, and it was just so cool, which that's a way to send your dog a picture.
It's so true. And that's really what people recommend. So if you go out of town, you can sit and send messages to your animal back home. You're safe, you're loved. I actually tried that. So Ernie had to take, he was on some supplements when he was going through the cancer, and, he wasn't always like super keen, but I didn't really want it to be this horrible force situation. So he loved playing with his ball. He loved his tennis ball, which I'll tell you about one of his signs. But anyway, so I sat on the floor and he wasn't even in the room, but I just started to imagine and send him these pictures of giving him this supplement. I don't know, it was turmeric or something. And then afterwards playing with the ball. And so I just sit there and I'm like, okay. And I opened my eyes and he was sitting, swear to you, right in front of me. I was like, it's giving me chills right now. And I was like, holy crap, this works. And I think that you and I have talked about, you're like, oh, sure, I'm open. I believe that. Yeah, wow. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, it truly is real. And you realize that you believed, but you didn't really believe completely.
Right. And I think it's that idea of you have to believe it before you see it. So being open to the idea and like you said, kind of believing that like, well, I think it's possible to talk to my animal and I feel like I'm talking to my animal. But then when you actually have a concrete example, and we're going to talk about some of those concrete examples of what Ernie sent you from the afterlife. So let's start that conversation.
Okay, well, like I said, we were very connected, and after he died, and in fact, I knew the day he was going to die. Of course, there were signs leading up to it, but I knew that I'd actually gone back to work. My dad had been visiting. I ended up going back to work. I looked at the calendar and I'm like, oh, he's going to die today. So I left work to come home and had some last conversations with some people. And I did share, I had talked with an animal communicator. So I'll just start with that. I talked with an animal communicator and said, all right, what does he need to do? Who does he need to say goodbye to? How do we wrap this up? What's his, how can we make this journey flow? And she had said, well, there's 5 people he needs to or would like to think. And so she described, I'm like, okay, that's this person, that's that person, da da da. And I had it all down to one person. And this was a man. And I'm like, who is that? And when I started thinking about it, I had remembered a friend of mine, a very, very close friend, who would come to Arizona and we would go on trips. And I'd call him and say, come to Arizona and take my dogs and me to the beach or whatever. And I'd known him for years. He knew Ernie very well. It was my friend Kirk. And he knew Ernie and Ernie loved him. Anyway, so we're sitting there and he was on the floor. We were gathered, him and I in our little ceremonial space. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Kirk. I have to call him. So I called him up and I said, hey, Ernie's on his way out. Do you want to say anything to him? Would you like to say goodbye? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And so I put Kirk on speaker, and Ernie, of course, he's like down and breathing and just that slow, like, are you here? Are you not? Are you here? And as soon as I put my friend on speaker and he started to speak to Ernie, Ernie's head popped up, eyes big, ears up. He's listening to my friend say, hey, buddy, thanks for all of the hiking and the fun, and it's been great, and, you know, whatever. I can't remember exactly. And then Kirk, he hung up, and Ernie's head, boop. And then within 15 minutes, he had died.
Wow.
So I was
That
just like,
brings that brings tears to my eyes. That's just so poignant and so precious.
yeah. You know, it really shows this like benefit of, if you're fortunate enough, and I know that sounds strange to say, but if you're fortunate enough to know the end is near, it's a gift, because you've got this time where you can plan. You know, it's like what death doulas do for people. It's this planning, and we don't always get that. There's trauma and accidents, and we don't, that's just like, we didn't get a chance to say goodbye. And it's so, that's really a hard thing to process. And so with my gift of knowing, I was able to take a deep breath and do some pre-planning and talk with an animal communicator. And all right, I've got this time, let's make the best of it, because there will be time for the many tears and the river of tears that came later, right?
Right. Right.
You have to process your grief. But to
And
be,
it also shows though how the animals are so connected to the humans in their life, and how they
yeah,
say goodbye. They want to say goodbye. You know, not only do we want to say goodbye, they want to say goodbye. So, wow, that's really powerful.
I mean, you think about how did he like know who was on the phone? I don't know. And, you know, when the time comes again with my dogs, I am going to make sure that I sit and ponder the humans that also may want to say their goodbyes, right? Because I don't know that we always consider that. But our animals have connections so deep, you know. When Ernie died, I got letters and emails from people from the downtown businesses and neighbors, and, you know, people knew Ernie. He touched, so I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
He
No,
touched
here we are both crying.
so many people's lives. It was like very eye-opening in how many people were touched by him. Even now, it's been 6 years since he died, and I know he's like, yep, still being talked about. You know, and
That's
he
right. Yes.
still,
What an amazing legacy that he's left. Now you're sharing these stories, which are so touching and so beneficial for everybody that's hearing them.
yeah, right. So okay, so he dies, and I'd actually stepped outside for a moment. I came back in, I'm just in the bathroom, I'm washing my hands, and all of a sudden I get this like flash of him flying. And I'm like, what? And this like, I'm free, I'm free, I'm finally free, I'm in the land of love. And I'm like, holy crap. You know, and I ran into the living room, and he was doing some really the deep breaths, right? You know, and I panicked for a moment. There was a moment where, I will be honest, that I had to breathe and fight the urge to shake him and say, don't go. Okay, that feeling, it was like panic, like this is really happening. And it was like, and it was like, you can go. I love you. It's okay. And you know, the whole thing was, he was already,
that's, I'm confused. So wait, you said he died, but then you went outside and then you came back in, but was
Well,
he
no.
still breathing?
So he's on the floor. This is before
Yes.
he had the phone call. I was
Right.
all right. Whoa, I need to
Yes.
process that call.
Okay.
I
So
think
that's when, yes.
in, and so he hadn't yet left. But when I got that flash in the bathroom,
Yes.
I feel like his spirit was already, it was just his body like processing the physiological parts. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I totally, yeah, I totally know. It's so interesting. I had a very similar experience when my mom, she had had a stroke, and then I got the call and I was getting ready to fly to go see her. And as I was laying, I had just an hour or two to lay down before I had to get picked up to go to the airport. And all of a sudden her energy just overflowed, just came over me like a tsunami or something. And she's just like, oh my God, you said we could communicate on the other side, and it was just, and I thought she died. She was still, I mean, I think, they go in and out of their body, because she was in and out for 5 more days until she actually passed.
Right.
So I
So
think
yeah, that's
similar. Yeah.
totally the same thing. It was like
Wow.
the separation of spirit or
Yes.
soul or whatever was like, whew. And that's why when I ran in thinking he's completely gone, but he wasn't, there was just that, that very deep breath. But I would believe it was like the parts of his body that letting go. I mean, it doesn't happen
Yes.
like,
Right.
what I mean?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Oh, so interesting. So yeah, and it's just like the near death experiencers, they leave their body, and yes, their body might be dead, but they still, they come back into it and
Oh,
it starts again.
exactly. Exactly. And so it was kind of like in my mind, I'm thinking, I have the power to stop this. Yeah, no.
Right.
But too, it was so real at that moment. And, and then he was gone, and I was filled with, I'm sure I was in shock, but I was also filled with so much love and peace at that moment, because he did just drift away. He grew his wings. He gracefully exited. I was so fortunate to have that. It was just like, wow, and when I had called my mom right after, she was very upset and crying and, saying she was sorry. And I just said, okay, I need a moment to be in this space of peace, because any moment now the grief's going to hit me and all of that's going to hit me, and it's almost like you only get like this short time right after where you're like, whoa. And it's happened with the deaths I've experienced after that. There's this peace and this love, and then all of a sudden it's like, your mind is not your friend, and the regret and the crazy thoughts and the pain in your heart, and that comes, and that's all part of the grief. But I was like, I just need to embrace this for a second. And I called my girlfriends to come over and spend some time with me. And as we were sitting on the floor, oh, well, let me back up just a second. Before he died, we sat and had a conversation, and I asked him, what will be your sign? What sign will you send to me so that I know that it's you, and I'm not going to second guess it in my crazy, overthinking, analytical mind? And I'm like, can't be sticks, because I'll see sticks everywhere. How about balls, tennis balls? I said, but it's got to be, I can't second guess this, right? I cannot second guess it. It's got to be like, oh my God, that's crazy. So I call my friends to come over after he died, just to have like a wake, right? So we're just sitting around his dead body talking. And all of a sudden a tennis ball rolls across my carpet. I have an Oriental rug in the middle of my living room. And we're all like, what? And then a second one. And we're like, what? And I was like, what? And I'm like, did you do that? I'm like, where's Charlotte? Charlotte was my little long-haired chihuahua. And she was in my friend Jamie's lap. And Jamie's like, Charlotte's right here. No. And we're just like, seriously. So it's like, when I think back on the story and my requesting Ernie so that I didn't like second guess it or think about it, he like did these things in like twos. There was 2 other people witnessing and there was 2 balls, no second guessing, right?
Wow.
Like, okay,
Wow.
if I do 1, she may be like, I don't know, that could have just like, but 2, and I wasn't alone. I really believe that if I had been alone with this sign, that in today, my mind would have already been like, no. You know, even though I believe in signs and all of that, your mind kind of twists things over time. And so I was just like blown away by that. And after that, it just kept happening. I talked to my mom the next day and she's like, where's the picture? And she's in Michigan. I'm in Arizona, or she was in Michigan. Well, she still may be, who knows, floating around her house. But she's like, where's the picture? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, here I am on the phone. Like, what are you talking about? Well, she said there was a picture on the wall of you and Ernie and Charlotte that I had taken at the St. Francis Blessing Festival because I had taken the dogs there to get them blessed. And she's like, it's gone. And I'm like, okay, weird. She's like, wait, oh my God, it's at my feet. So the picture had blown like down and was at her feet. And she's like, how can that be? And I'm like, energy. And my mom knew Ernie because when she had come to visit me, we spent time together and we called her the lady. So she would come and after she left, Ernie would go to the door of the room she stayed in. And I'm like, oh, where's the lady? We miss the lady. And he's like, And so he knew both my mom and my dad. And so I was like, well, it only makes sense because she's very sad for this loss, not only for losing him, but for me and what I'm going through. And it's kind of like, hey, here. Just things just kept happening, Lisa. It was crazy, walk in the house and the fan would start spinning on my ceiling fan. And I took his ashes into the Catholic Church to be blessed. We walked in the front door of this church, the lights go on and off. I'm like, dude, we're in a church. There's other people here.
Wow, that is so cool. And what about, are you able to, if you call on him for, guidance or something like that, does that happen? Or is it more you receive signs?
Well, for a while, I would really do writing and tap in with him. And I've started recently to really go back into allowing him to be my guide. I talked to, after he died, so all this stuff's happening and I'm really feeling, like, wow, this is bigger than I knew. Okay, there's something going on here. And so I found a different animal communicator that did not know me. She knew nothing about me, my story or anything. And because I wanted to get another viewpoint, but not from the communicator that knew me and Ernie and the story and all of that. So I would no bias. And so when I called her and I was, saying, okay, I just want, my dog, he died. I just want to see what. And she says, well, first of all, I don't feel he's going to be reincarnated or come back. And I'm like, okay. And I knew that already. And she said, I feel like he's like your master spirit guide, master, like guardian angel. And he is like, let's go. You got work to do. Get back on your path. Be with the light working. It's time. Stop wasting time and start going. And I was just like, And so what she was sharing was really echoing all of the lessons and the signs and everything that was happening. Was now I was getting these validations because I didn't tell her anything, right? I just wanted to know, okay, am I crazy? All right. Anybody listening that knows me, don't answer that. Okay. But it was just so beautiful to be like, all right, that's really along the lines of what I was feeling guided towards. And yeah, he, to this day, I mean, I have so many stories, Lisa. We could seriously be on this phone for like hours sharing time, the signs that he sent that have to do with tennis balls and just this weird, crazy guidance. And then in mediumship readings, he comes through and I'm like, okay, so we all want like our parents or spouse or other significant loved ones that have died. And it's like, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, but he's like, there's Ernie. I mean, at the afterlife conference, remember?
Yeah, you got a reading from Ernie. I was there when and it was so good because she was saying something like, well, you have something of his that you brought. I don't know. I don't think she didn't know it was a dog originally, right? She's just like, you have something of your loved ones here with you. And she's like, why would you have, right.
Yeah, she's like, you've got, no, it's like whoever this, because she asked me first and I'm like, well, I think it's my dog. And,
right.
I did a talk and she's like, no, she's like, no, this person has their dog's collar and tags. And I'm like,
Yep.
because I brought everything for my talk. So in my suitcase, sitting right, dog hair. I mean, everything that I had put together for his altar, it was like, bam. And then of course, he was with my dad, which has happened before. He's come through with my dad and it's just been like, it's crazy.
Wow.
I don't know. It's like he knows when to come through. And there were a number of people in my talk that had come up to me and chatted with me and, had either lost animals and had a beautiful experience or their animals were senior or terminal. And so they were at the process of going through this. So my talk was very inspiring and helpful for them. But I think that the icing on the cake was when he made an appearance. I had a guy come up after. He's like, when she started talking, I was like, that's Ernie. That's like, oh my God. And Suzanne didn't know what I talked about. She didn't go to any of the talks. She didn't know what was happening or anything about any of that. And so it was just so beautiful because it allowed people to really see that energy is energy and love is love. And the power of this animal to come through provides you with this like hope and inspiration and knowing that your loved ones, no matter what form they may have been in, have that ability to connect, and I don't know, Lisa, you may have, people will be like, an aunt comes through and they're like, well, but she died like 10 years ago. Why is she coming through? And it's like, well, first of all, I'm not sure we really know, but time doesn't make a difference. I mean, time is like our construct, and Ernie's been gone 6 years, but yet still continues to make a presence. He's come through at different conferences I've been at and crazy stuff that is so serendipitous and so like you could try your hardest to explain it away by coincidence, but the numbers will not add up because it's like statistically for that to happen would be 1 in a gabillion or whatever.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Well, how about I read some cards? Maybe Ernie will come through in the card reading. I don't know.
Oh my God, that would be fantastic.
We'll see. Now I've got all this expectation, right?
No, you know what? Here's the thing, Lisa. If he's meant to come through, then he will.
Yeah. Well, oh my goodness.
I know, it's so touching. And I wanted to show you something else. I had this picture. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So I had this picture of him. Oh,
yeah.
There we go. All right. In my office, right?
Yep. And it's a picture of Ernie. I just want to explain it because some people might not see the video. Oh, yeah. So explain the picture. He's sitting on a
Ernie in a frame up in, I don't know if it's like Sedona or somewhere. And I'd had it sitting in my office. And I went to go and just look at his pictures after he died. And there was a fortune from a fortune cookie that was sitting right next to it. And let me read what it says. You will touch the lives of many.
Wow.
So I taped it right above there.
That's beautiful.
Wait, what? I'm like, oh, what? Yeah. And then hold on just a second. I can't see it very well, so I want to check something. Okay, so among the numbers are 8. So you know how they always have like numbers, the thing?
Right.
8, which is like my cosmic number that I love. A 33 and a 44.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I know, and I didn't like make that little fortune cookie thingy.
Exactly. Wow. That is powerful. Well, let me just, I'm glad you spoke for a couple moments there because I was overwhelmed with just this feeling of, from Ernie. So there's 3 cards, and the first card is healing, which is the blockage card. That's the first card's always about blockage. And so, what I'm getting is that he's saying, he wasn't able to be healed, but that, that was the process, and that you did the best, you did everything you could. So the action card that he's saying is gratitude. He's just so grateful for everything that you did. And then, oh my God, the outcome card is love. So I just, the message that's coming through so loud and clear is that you did everything that you could, and that he's so grateful for all the love and the care and support that you gave him during the palliative time. And, and he just loves you so much, and he is walking you on your path. And it's just such a beautiful, gosh, what a beautiful example for all of us to witness and see. And thank you for sharing your story, because it's so palpable and so heartwarming,
Thank you, Lisa. Oh my gosh. I mean, those, with cards, it's like, when I pull a card for a client or whatever, I'm like always amazed at, how it flows and how it's like, how does that happen?
Right.
Right? But it's always so cosmically perfect.
Absolutely. And he's also reminding me that this is a great reading just for anyone that's dealing with a pet that's nearing end of life. That healing, that's the problem, right? That's the blockage, is that they just can't be healed, that they're on their way out, and that they just have so much gratitude and so much love for their person, for the master that took care of them in this lifetime. And so if you're listening today and you're dealing with the end of life with a beloved pet, know that they're so grateful for your care and they love you so much.
Yeah, and absolutely, reach out to me and share your stories, or, I can offer you support with the palliative hospice. And, I think that part of what happens when our animals get sick, and I've caught myself doing this, and even with our loved ones, is we pack our bags and go to crazy fix-it island.
You're right.
And all of our energy gets stuck in trying to fix, 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 fix. And it takes up a lot of time and energy. And when we can embrace in a certain way and offer this palliative care and comfort and support and be there with them, when I got off that spin of I'm going to cure this thing and we're going to, and it was like, right? It was like I was holding on so tightly. And when I finally just said, all right, let's just be with what will be, and I'll make sure that you're comfortable and happy, and, whatever I can do to allow you to, when he went into remission, but to not go crazy panic. And it took a lot of work, and Ernie taught me a lot, so that with my next dog, Charlotte, when she was 100 years old, she lived like 16 or something, I was able to say, all right, you know what? We're moving towards hospice. That's what we're doing with you. And see all of whoever you need to see. And let's just keep you comfortable and happy until the time comes when you grow your wings and fly.
That's beautiful. And I know you're a big fan of the hospice way and the natural passing of the animal. Many people do choose to euthanize. Are there ideas or suggestions for people, if they're going to go that route, what they can do to help maybe make
Oh my gosh,
it a little easier?
absolutely. My mother's dog, who my sister and I inherited, Samson, he ended up with degenerative myelopathy, DM, and he was a very large dog, and we managed the disease as long as we were able with rehab. But the time came when we were faced with the decision of letting him go. And Samson also taught me a big lesson about what people, I had never had to I had to euthanize an animal. It was my childhood cat, and that was horrible. And it was many, many years ago, and I had been able to have my dogs die natural deaths. And being faced with this decision of euthanasia brought a whole new perspective into what people struggle with, and how do we embrace that gracefully and know that we can also make that time beautiful. And I had helped my dog sitter, Apple's dog sitter, Sue, a friend of mine, I'd worked with her when she needed to let her dog Rob go, who coincidentally had degenerative myelopathy. And she called and asked me to come to be there for the euthanasia. And we made it very special with ritual and prayer and calm and flower essences. And so when Samson, I'm like, okay, let's also create sacred space for this. And so that we can be 100% present as he dies. And what shocked me was it was like so quick. For me, in my mind, I'm thinking, it's going to be this process, because I'd been through Ernie. It was like a process, right? And for euthanasia, it's quick. But when I think back, I'm like, what a gift, because he didn't suffer at all through this. We were both with him, my sister and I, in a beautiful sacred space. We had prepared, for the days leading with flower essences. It was rough emotionally, absolutely. But there was also this softening and being able to be present, having things available. We had frankincense. My sister anointed him after he died, and we had time to just not be so distraught that we could actually be there. So yeah, absolutely. In any way that you have to say goodbye to your animal, there are ways to embrace that, and in certain ways celebrate that, the time you have to say goodbye and thank them and share the life story. Remember when you were a puppy and we did this, and oh my God, it was so great. You know, you have this time to acknowledge and be there in that, and the planning, just like a death doula would do. And I'm also trained as a death doula with people. We can do that with our animals as well, and make it a sacred time. And just another super quick story. So Samson, I was in Michigan. We knew that we were going to be choosing the time. It was going to be very, very soon. We'd been up and downstairs in the basement at my mom's house, laundry, this and that, just getting, you know, things, whatever. And my sister runs up and she hands me this angel pin. And I'm like, where did you find that? She's like, right in the pathway into the laundry room, where her and I had been, like, you know, barefoot, mind you. And I'm like, no way. I've been down there like a million times. And so I'm like, well, where did this angel come from? And I looked up to see what this angel was, who made it, whatever. And I plunked in the angel. And the first thing that popped up was Sparrow Hospital. And Sparrow Hospital was where my mom had stayed when she was in ICU before she was transferred and then died. And I'm like, okay, what? And we really were just taken aback, because it was like, but of course, my mother is here saying, you know, hey girls, I got your back.
Wow.
You know, I got your back, and I am going to carry you through this, and I'm sending the angels to surround you with their love, and you're going to get through it, right? Because sometimes it seems like you're not.
Right. Wow, that is beautiful. I absolutely love that. Well, tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you, your website, and I will also have that in the show notes, but it's nice to have people listen or hear you say it.
Fabulous. So my website is GretchenBickert.com, and you can contact me. There's a contact form there you can reach me at, or email me directly at ursus88 Ursus, like the bear, Ursus88 @gmail.com.
Wonderful. Well, Gretchen, this was such an amazing conversation. It was so moving. My goodness, I feel like I was crying through half of it, but it's just such a testament to the love that you shared with Ernie and that you're sharing with all of us now. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, you are so welcome. So welcome. And I would love for people to share their stories with me of signs that they've had, you know, and then maybe we'll come back in the future and share all those.
Yes, that would be wonderful. So yeah, anyone listening that has a wonderful story about your beloved pet that's passed away, or anything that happened with signs, or your experience of maybe helping them through hospice care, or whatever you'd like to share with Gretchen. I know she would love to compile some stories, and it would be fun to have her back on and hear everybody's experiences. So thank you once again.
You're so welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Exploring Death podcast. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any financial or legal decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Exploring Death. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.